All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Evolve and Elevate with Erica. We are so excited to be here with you all again this Monday here at 8 o'clock, and where you will find us every week. And again, I have with me the wonderful Alicia Johnson, who was with our premiere episode last week. So we thank you so much, Alicia, for being with us from the 1212 community. So we thank you so much. So I'm going to briefly let you reintroduce yourself again for those who did not catch us last week and this is their first time. My name is Erica Bishop, your host and creator of Evolve to Elevate with Erica and the Empowered to Prosper Coaching and Consulting Coaching Business. So we're so glad to have you with us today. And I'm going to turn it over to Alicia. Are you muted? I can't hear you.
Girl, I'm just having a good old time over here talking.
You
I
can.
sounded real good. Thank you so much for having me. I am Alicia Johnson, the creator of the 1212 community. And the 1212 community is a journaling community that is dedicated to helping everyone who chooses to learn how to recalibrate their lives 12 hours for God and 12 hours for man. And we do that through a myriad of ways through journaling, life path work, year cycle work, provision work, everything spiritual, mental, and physical we do it. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. I'm everything that the world is not. So that is who I am. So thank you, Erica.
And we love it, and it is a great place to be. And again, I'm Erica Bishop, and I just enjoy helping people to become their best self and them understanding self mastery, teaching all things emotional intelligence and how you can unlock your emotions and be able to communicate effectively and live a lifestyle of emotional intelligence. So, as you're coming in, we ask that you please share, please tag someone and invite about three people. Every person invite three. We would greatly appreciate that. And definitely put your comments in the chat because we definitely want to make sure that you are definitely engaged and a part of this conversation, and reach out to us if you have any conversations as well. So as we get ready to get started on this on tonight we're still talking about understanding emotional intelligence in the way of self mastery through what we're going to be talking about tonight. This segment is called Mirror Mirror. We're going to be reflecting on our emotional landscape for our own personal transformation. So we're going to kind of get into connection with a couple of triggers, how we identified our own triggers, how do we work through those, as well as identifying our emotional patterns as we get into this, because this is all a part of self-awareness and understanding who we are. Because I'm a firm believer that if you learn how to master yourself, you won't be a puppet for someone else to master you.
Amen.
You won't be that person where other people drive your emotions. And we all know we have those people that know how to push our buttons. They know who we are. We know that we have to kind of have that conversation with ourselves before we talk to someone. So how do we identify these triggers before we get to that place where we may have an emotional explosion? Or we might find ourselves saying something that we may regret, because as my grandmother would always say, you can't unring a bell. So once those words go out, you can't take them back. So at this moment, Alicia, if you could just kind of tell me as we start getting into this conversation, when did you begin to start identifying your triggers and what did that look like in the beginning?
Oh wow. I can say that after identifying my triggers, I realized that I always had triggers but didn't know what they were. And what my triggers look like, and when I started to identify them, was after my marriage started to heal. And what it looked like was that, Mike and I, we would be having a good time. We'd be laughing. We'd be, just like everything is normal. And then I would pass by a certain exit, or uh, a song would come on or something. And it's like, what? Like my entire mood would change. and I couldn't figure out what that was. And so over time, I realized those are my triggers. Anything that kind of jolts you back to where you were. And so I realized that I had triggers throughout my life, but not knowing what they were. But I really began to identify my triggers with the healing of our marriage.
Okay.
Hmm.
When you had those triggers, what kind of space did it put you in?
Oh, it took me right
We
back
can
to,
start
yeah, it took me right back to square one. Like it took me right back to, Michael be confused 'cause, like we were just having fun. What happened? Like what, and so if it would always a lot of the times it would happen because the route, I'm from the south, so we would drive home, and so every time we would get to a particular exit in Virginia, it would just trigger, and I would be angry for the next, I could be angry for the next 100 miles or so. I mean, it would just ruin the whole trip. Like it was just crazy. Yeah, it would take me back to like the arguments. It would take me back to the all of the stuff. It was like I was reliving it all over again.
So it's safe to say that when we don't identify what our triggers are and to be able to understand what the thing was that triggered us, we're going to find ourselves in an emotional loop.
Mhm. Oh yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah. And if I didn't know what those things were, our marriage still wouldn't be healed because I would have to reel myself in. And then I would also give Mike permission to reel me in. Like when I do this, just girl, stop tripping. That you just triggered you whatever, and then he would get triggered too. But his triggers were different, and so we each had to learn each other's trigger so we could, I guess, talk each other down, if that makes sense.
It does, because it's so important when you don't identify what those triggers are. And to kind of go back to what you were saying, triggers could be anything. It's not necessarily what somebody said. It's a
Mhm.
smell, it's a
Mhm.
song, it's whatever it is that triggers the thought, memory, and emotion. It's the color. It could be someone who looks like someone that you thought you knew from your past. All those things can be triggers, but the thing about it is, what emotion does it invoke, and what default setting do you go back to when that trigger happens, and what begins to play out. The major part of it is, how do we catch it before it puts us in an emotional loop? And to your point of what you were just saying, an argument would start.
Mhm.
Will you go all the way back to square one, to something that we thought we had resolved, but we keep digging it back up? It's supposed to be buried, it's supposed to be done,
Mhm.
but we continue to dig it back up in such a way that we keep reliving it, and we never begin to grow.
Mhm.
We never get past that place. So I know that the holidays, events, okay, let's take July 4th as one big holiday that's about to come up. This is a time where we have family reunions and everybody kind of gets together. So if anybody could kind of put in the chat, or even some triggers that you may have even had with family members, if you could share some of those different things that have come up in your life that you've had to heal from, to help you move past those places on your healing journey.
Mhm. Mhm. I know for me, around like the holidays would be not necessarily, we're not a big, like, I take that back, I'm not a big holiday person, but Mike is a big, they celebrate everything. You kicking a can down the street and it's a hot they they with you. But for Christmas, when the kids were smaller, I didn't realize that was a trigger for me. I just did not want to do Christmas. I was just like, it's a waste of money, it's a waste of time, it's this, that, and the other. And Mike kept saying, like, he didn't have the terminology. All he kept saying, you damaged. You just damaged. Like you damaged. But it was a trigger because those holidays would always bring back like frustration and my mom was very practical, and so I went, and that was the thing, like growing up, I grew up in like two different worlds. Like I went to a really ritzy high school, like with a whole lot of old money and things like that. But then our family, we were not well off like that. And so my parents did everything that they could to make sure that they afforded us the, education that we needed, the tools that we needed to make a better life for ourselves, not so much to be cushioned where we were. And I realized that as I started to get my have my own family, that that was a trigger for me, because I was reliving Christmas all over again. I was reliving, and it was wild. It took me years to figure out what that was. But yeah, that was a trigger. That was also, the emotional piece, the holiday piece, all of those things rolled up into one. So I was a mess. A mess.
Oh, I understand. I think one of the biggest things that helped me was when I began to ask questions to myself.
Mm,
Why did that trigger me? I no longer got lost in being triggered. It was the question, why did that bother me so much?
mhm,
Especially when you're on your healing journey and you're getting to a place of a greater self awareness, your dialogue with yourself changes. You begin to ask more practical questions to yourself, more so about the healing. You begin to become your own therapist,
mhm,
so to speak.
mhm.
You don't have to wait to go to therapy for the questions to be
Right.
asked. You begin to ask those questions of yourself. So, why did that trigger me? Why did that upset me? Why did that bother me? Why am I still dealing with this? And it allows you to have that dialogue within yourself and begin to be more open to the person that may have triggered you, or to be able to communicate in a different way. So when you think about also a degree of self-awareness, let's talk about how important it is to change the language that you speak to
Mm,
yourself.
my God. So for me, one of the things, and that's why I started that's how the journaling work started, because my self talk was a mess. It was awful. And so God had to slow me down and keep me focused. And that's why we do, like, everything we do in the journaling work is the work that God had me to work through. And one of those things was the dedication. Like, this little journal right here is dedicated to this topic only, and that's all you can talk about. That's all you can deal with. Don't be adding anything to it. Don't be taking anything from it, because I had to train myself to stay focused on the healing process. Because, at one moment I'm talking about, my family is healed, I'm walking in abundance, I'm prosperous, and then somebody say something, I get triggered, and the whole conversation derails. And so changing my language was a very difficult process, because my entire life I had always been double minded. I had always been double minded. I could talk myself out of anything. 2 seconds in, 3 seconds out. I'm like, it was a mess. It was a mess. It was a mess. So yeah, that language piece, I had to redirect all of my talking, finances, relationships, career, all of that stuff.
And it makes a huge difference. And when I understood the definition of metacognition,
What's that?
which
What's
is
that?
think about what, to be conscious of what you think
Okay.
about, to really, because sometimes we have thousands of thoughts
Mm-hmm.
that are fleeting every day, but we really focus on what we're thinking about? And you're always having this thought, and you thoughts become things, words become
Mm-hmm.
worlds, and you think about and say what you're thinking about, and you're creating these different things because you're putting things out here in the atmosphere. You're creating your own bottleneck in your own life. So when I really
Mhm.
became conscious of what I was thinking and really began to think about what did I just say to myself, and I had to, for better words, rebuke my own self from the negative self-talk that I was having. I literally had to stand in the mirror and
Mm.
say, I am this. I had to go through a time of I am statements to unravel all the negative stuff that I had been talking to myself for years
Mhm.
and agreeing with negative things. I had to sit in the mirror and say, I am love, I am kind, I am peace, I am joy. To go through that process. And when I begin to become more conscious, you begin to see how toxic you really are for yourself. Nobody really has to tell you.
Mm-mm.
And I spent a lot of time focusing on my own thoughts. And I would write my affirmations very much to the dedication and spent time every day whenever I found myself triggered or in a negative space to begin to reaffirm myself. Because how can I affirm someone else? I have a comfortable, sometimes uncomfortable conversation, but to do it in the way that it need to be done if I first don't believe it
Mhm. Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
So when we also think about self-awareness, when did it get to the point that you were able to have those what I call critical conversations and it not be such a big blow up? Because we I love Dr. Vicky when she says live an undefended life, but sometimes we spend so much time worried about being offended. So when did it get to the point where you were able to have those critical conversations
Mm.
about what you really felt and what you needed?
I first had to have those critical conversations with myself. And once I became comfortable with me, I really didn't care about anybody else as far as because I was so invested on healing what needed to be healed that your opinions or the conflict that may arise from that, I'm so focused on freedom right now that it didn't even phase me. And I knew that to be true because Mike and I, we've been our biggest obstacles and our biggest teachers. And so when I started to have those critical conversations, he was almost taken aback because he was like, I can't even believe you telling me this. I can't even
Wow.
believe you had the audacity to say this right now. I can't. And I was like, look, I got to get all of this off my chest. I let it, like Usher say, let it burn. Like, just let it do. It's going to do what it's going to do.
Yeah.
And once I settled into that, and that's the thing, once you prove to yourself that the world is not going to end, like I had to play that scenario with myself. What is the worst case scenario that could happen for me by having this conversation?
Mhm.
And I would go there too. I was like, well, the worst case, I could die. I could literally die. And if I die, I'm going to die telling the truth. I'm okay with that. Let's go. It was like I literally had to go to the worst case scenario. And if I was okay with the worst case scenario, it was game on. I'm good. So
That's
that's how I
powerful.
handled it.
Let's talk about truth for a second. You said something that was so important.
Hmm.
Um, when you finally allowed truth to take the front seat in your life,
Hmm.
what was that like and how did it change your life?
Oh wow. I started to pay truth. Truth takes action. Truth does what needs to be done, and truth don't make a whole lot of noise. And that's how I. That day I was sitting. That's the story I have. I was sitting at my work. I'm sitting at work one day, and I really just wanted to get to the truth of whatever situation I was dealing with because I didn't have a lot of time or room for ambiguity. I needed to know what it was. And so when God took me and led me out to those two homeless people, one was sitting there jingling change, spare change for the homeless
Mhm.
guy. And then the other homeless guy walked across. He went to the garbage can, took out the sandwich, ate it, took out the juice, drank it, and laid on the bench and went to sleep. And God said, that's truth. Truth takes action, truth does what needs to be done, and truth doesn't make a whole lot of noise. So that took me on an exploration of truth. And what God began to show me is that with not 99%, not 98%, but when you are operating 100% in the truth, no one can argue with you. They can change the subject, they can move to something else, but the truth cannot be altered. It doesn't matter if you're 2 years old or 102 years old. Truth can stand alone. So that's what I learned about truth.
Okay. Now we really cooking tonight because I tell you what, truth is one of those things that you just have to accept it or not accept it. It's your choice.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I learned when I became more truthful with myself and more truthful with God. See, we seem to think that God don't. We forget that God knows everything, but we think we hide stuff from Him. It's the
That part,
craziest
that
thought
part.
that you could ever have that God didn't know. But the truth is for you. It's not for Him. He already knows. The truth is for you. It's just like forgiveness is for you. It's not for anybody else. It's for you. Um, but when you begin to operate in a place of truth, you are so correct. Nothing else matters because once I've given it all to you. And you can decide exactly what it is that you want to do with it or not do with it. But one thing I have done, I have released myself from it all. And I don't have to go back to it again because I gave you the truth the first time. One thing I've learned, if I ever have to revisit something, I didn't give you the truth the first time. If I ever have a conversation with someone and I have to have a conversation with myself afterwards, I didn't tell you the truth when I had an opportunity to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Truth is a
Anytime you have to have a conversation after a conversation, there was not enough truth
mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Yep. That's why I say 99% won't do.
Mm-mm.
99% will not do. Your body responds to truth. Like like there's absolutely, that's why, especially with the work that I do and the work that you do also, when you're operating in truth, you can't add anything to it and you can't take anything from it. And when you begin to understand the energy of truth, you use it every on my job. Like I use it, like sometimes like it's a sport for me. So for example, today there was a situation that came up and I told 100% of the truth. All I needed was one phone call. They ain't called me no more the rest of the day because it wasn't nothing else to ask me. I told you I delivered everything I had, and the call was so quick. It was like, okay, that's it, that's it. Okay, well, thank you. Okay, bye, honey. I went on with the rest of my day and didn't think about it. But you got to be 100% spirit, mind, and body in alignment. And when it's done, it's done. I don't care what it is. And that's how you can gauge the truth from people. Like, that's how I can tell when people are lying. It's so funny. Truth takes action. Truth does what needs to be done. Truth doesn't make a whole lot of noise. If you coming to me with a whole lot of
Yeah, yeah.
conversation
Mm-hmm.
and you sound like a used car salesperson and you
Mm-hmm.
got to keep belaboring your point,
Mm-hmm.
it ain't no truth in there. Might be a little bit like it has the potential to be true, but that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
I have fun with that. I just be sitting back there like, I ain't moving on that one. Not doing it. And you don't have to say a word. You don't have to do anything.
I also noticed that um with truth, your discernment shifts. When you operate in a true place of truth, discernment increases
Hmm.
dramatically.
Oh, definitely.
Because one thing I've come to understand that when God don't have to go through a whole bunch of filters, we put all these extra filters in between us and God. And when he's trying to give us a divine download, the more I have become more healed and remove the rejection, remove the abandonment, because he told me once, he said, I need you to get to a point that when I speak to you, you act very quickly. He said, I got to go through too many filters.
Mhm.
I got to go through, when you think of somebody else outside of being obedient to me, then you not doing it the way I need you to do it. I need you to
Mhm.
remove all this extra stuff. And when
Mhm.
you operate in a place of truth, it removes all of those filters. So when you get that direct download, radical obedience becomes very easy.
Mm. Who you telling?
It
It's
becomes a whole lot easier.
the shortest distance. We learned this in geometry. The shortest distance between any 2 points is a straight line. That's spiritually, mentally, and physically. And when God began to show me that, God was like, and that's why, when I teach, it's too much static on the line.
Mm-hmm.
If you have too much static on the line, you run the risk of misunderstanding the instruction.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why you have to understand. This is why I'm so adamant about that 12 hours for God, 12 hours for man. You need that every day so
Mm-hmm.
that you can sift through, you can filter through, and you can identify the truth quicker. You can move through the process faster, and that truth is how heaven redeems the time.
Yes, ma'am.
That is people like, oh, I want to redeem the time. I want to tell the truth. But see, a lot of times people don't want to tell the truth because every aspect of their life has been built on a lie. And in order for you to tell the truth, it's going to have to dismantle everything you have created. And people don't want to run the risk of losing the illusion.
Wow. Say it one more time for the people in the back and those that don't want to hear. They don't want to run the risk of what?
Losing the illusion.
Come
Girl.
on now and say it again. I'm gonna have to give you a love offering for that. My God, that was good.
Losing that illusion. And that's what God had to do with me. And that's why for me, I love the work that I do. I love it so much because I love it because, and I love your work because we've done the work. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
I don't feel bad for people because God is not a respecter of persons.
Mm-mm.
And heaven is going to take care of you through the entire process. But that stripping away is what most people are most afraid of. But that is the most, God stripped away everything. My friends, I was praying. God, that was the one thing. When you operate in truth, God is going to tell you the truth. And I'll never forget, I was praying. Girl, I was praying. I was on my knees. I was, Lord. I was praying for the restoration of my marriage. And God was sitting there like, arms folded. We ain't doing that.
Mhm.
God was like, you don't want to restore this.
Wow.
You do not. When you restore something, you keep the foundation. Like you redo the walls, you redo it. But God said, we got to tear this up from the foundation, like from the ground up. And that was the truth. God was like, you and Mike did not build this on a strong foundation. Because when we walked down the aisle, we had to be truthful with ourselves.
Mhm.
And this is what most married couples are not truthful with themselves because you know who you were before you put that white dress on. You
Come
know
on
who
now.
you know who you were. You think that because you put that dress on, you think because you go through some marriage counseling classes, you think because you've done all of these things and have not repented for anything that you did before, you just kind of swept it under the rug, but now you're gonna turn this way and live right.
Mm-mm. It don't happen that fast. No, ma'am.
Child, you walk down that. God was like, you act like when they opened them double doors and you walk through,
Mm-mm.
that your whole life was gonna change. Like your whole life changes like that. God was like, you the same person. You
Mm-hmm.
have not repented. You have not asked for any changes. You have not done anything, but now you're expecting heaven to do everything.
Ooh.
It's like it don't work like that. When God tells you the truth, that stuff hurts.
Oh, it hurts.
It hurts.
Mm-hmm.
When even through pregnancy, God was telling me the truth. God was like, you can't even enjoy your pregnancy
Wow.
because you have not faced the truth. And I shared that story when you know how like your first kid, well, all you're pregnant, you had all them the blood work and stuff. And it
Mm-hmm.
was my first, so I wasn't sure. I was like, oh my God. And it was a Friday. They drew the blood, but I wasn't gonna get the blood test until the results until like Monday or Tuesday the next week.
Right.
And it just so happened I was a Lifetime movie network fanatic. And it happened to be the weekend, like it was a AIDS awareness weekend or something. And it
Mm-hmm.
was all of the movies were dedicated to like AIDS and HIV. And I'm like, oh my Lord, oh Jesus, all of my sins were just coming out. It's just, I don't know my status. I don't know, Lord. Jesus, it was a mess. Erica, it was a mess. And God was like, because you have not dealt with your indiscretions, because you have not dealt with your sin, because you have not dealt with any of this, you can't even enjoy the miracle of life because you operating in a lie.
Wow.
Honey, I was like, oh, God uses everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. That truth is the And then when you get to the place of telling Mike now he's like, man, you got to tell everything. I do.
Look,
I
once
tell it
you get
all.
free, you want to stay free.
I stays free. I's free.
You want to stay free.
I'm staying free. I don't. I mean, I was such a liar. And I had no idea of what my lies were doing to me or other people,
Mm-hmm.
and that was my lifestyle. But once God showed me the other side of that, and I became emotionally intelligent enough to know that
Mm-hmm.
there's something to this truth, honey,
Mm-hmm.
my life changed. I'm telling it all. I'm squealing like a pig. That's when people, I'm serious. I'm squealing like a pig. I know something, I'm telling them. My kids know if they commit a crime, who gonna be there for mama gonna call? I'm calling, I'm gonna point you out. In the closet, under the little cubby hole in there. That's where they are. I ain't no. Mm-mm, mm-mm.
I think for me, when you have one become sick enough of yourself,
Oh yes.
and then two, you really get to experience what liberty does for you in your spirit, mind, and your body,
Hello.
and you walk in that liberty, you will refuse to allow someone to bind you back up in a place where you fought so hard to come out of. And just like we talked last week, that's why forgiveness is so important. I'm not waiting for anybody to ask me or for forgiveness. I'm going to give it to you freely because I will not go back to what I came out. Oh, you ain't even got to ask. Oh, you already got it. Don't even, you got to ask. You don't have to even wait. I'm going to go ahead and give it to you. And
Mm-hmm,
I'm going to quickly ask for forgiveness. I'm
mm-hmm.
not going to wait for a situation. No, please forgive me. And even if I may not have done something wrong, I'm going to ask for it anyway. If there was a possibility, there was a remote possibility it was even there, because once you get to a place of freedom and truly to a place of true self-awareness about yourself, one, you realize you don't have a lot of time. Two, you don't want to waste no time because all you want to operate is in a place of truth. And three, the blessings that begin to flow through and out of your life because you position yourself in such a way that you really can begin to live in the realm of miracles, signs, and wonders
Honey,
because
honey.
you've aligned yourself
Mm.
with the way you need to, and you don't have to exert all this energy. When I think about people who have built their lives on the lie, you have to exert so much time, energy, and resources to keep that stuff up that you can't enjoy the life that you say you built. But truth allows you to rest
Every night.
and enjoy.
Every night. Every night. Every night. Honey, when when you understand, when you create scenarios in your life, in a man, I talk about the man-made progression versus a God-made progression. A man-made progression operates counterclockwise.
Mm,
A God-made progression operates clockwise.
mm,
When you are operating in a man-made progression, you have to do everything to keep that world in balance.
mm,
When you're operating in a God made progression, you are in the flow with heaven. So heaven is aware of everything before it happens. Heaven knows. See, this is the thing. This is the power of free will. When you operate in God's economy, you're saying, God, I'm equally yoked with you. I want to work this out with you. I want to be in alignment with who you are. When you operate in a man made progression, God is so gracious that heaven says, you have chosen to do this alone. So heaven is going to bow out because that is your request. Honey,
mm,
once I learned that, I'm
mm,
like, I ain't doing nothing by myself.
mm,
Because when you choose to go in a man made progression and you choose to do all of these things outside of heaven's will, and you move in a direction where you want to do it on your own, that's like break glass in case of emergency. Heaven's waiting on you to cry out.
mm,
But when you're operating in God's economy, God is walking with you lockstep. Like you don't even have to worry about it. I ain't fighting no more of my battles. God fights all my battles for me. Every single one of them. I just sit back. Erica, when you realize, see, I'm lazy. And people be asking me, how do you do so much? I'm lazy. I am so lazy that I want all my angels to do all my work for me. That's why that radical obedience thing, that's how I can get so much done. Because I ain't doing that much. I'm just listening. He who has ears, then let them hear. I'm listening. God say move, I move. God say rest, I rest. God say run, I run. God say jump, I jump. It's real easy.
mm.
But you got to know your God voice. You
That
got
part.
to know.
That part. Let me tell you something.
You can't just be jumping.
When I finally realized my God voice,
Oh my God.
I had to sit down for a minute and say, you mean to tell me I've been doing this thing this wrong all this
All the
time?
time. Don't it make you mad?
I
Don't it make
have
you mad?
created all these craziness and storms and chaos for no reason at all. And all I had to do was just be still and know.
Be still and know.
All I had to do was sit and listen. Because, see, pride, of course, puts us in places where we don't need to be, drags us out through the dust and the dirt, have us looking crazy. And all we had to do was sit and be still.
But also, Erica, you know that God specializes in you looking crazy. Now, don't
And he
think
does.
that. Now, see, don't think
His crazy is different from our crazy, though.
it's
Now, our
different.
crazy is different.
But see, you're that crazy. See, this is the thing. You got to be very rooted in your God voice. And you got to be very firm in your understanding that the entire universe belongs to God.
Yes.
And God can do whatever, whenever, however heaven wants to.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to look crazy before men.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a given. So you've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable in the world. And that is what a lot of people do not want to do.
That's part of the illusion.
That's part of
That
the illusion.
that's why people are so disillusional, because they don't want to get rid of that illusion, because they're too busy worried about how they look in front of other people,
Mm-hmm.
because they need man's affirmation. When
Child,
you get to that place where you have God's affirmation and confirmation, I don't care how I look to anybody else.
girl, let me. The conference we had in
Oh,
Dallas,
woohoo!
if that, I said, God, why Dallas? God, why this? God, why that? I had questions like everybody else. God said you can show them better than you can tell them.
Come on now.
Honey, when I tell you that after that conference, my entire life changed. There is nothing that you can't tell me that Alicia Johnson and Michael Johnson cannot do, and this 1212 community cannot do. Because when God shows you how powerful heaven is, ain't none of that stuff gonna make sense in the world's economy. But honey, that made perfect sense to me. Everybody,
Mm-hmm.
well, how that gonna happen, honey? That green room alone, that green room alone. Let me, so I can share this story now, because I don't.
Yeah, go
All,
ahead. Go ahead.
all the
I'm
people,
just gonna ask you to share.
everything paid now. I ain't,
I need you to share the story.
honey. So when God tells you to do something, and you're operating in 100% of the truth of what God has told you to do. See, I knew 100% of the truth that God said, you going to Dallas and this is the date and this is. So when everything started to line up, that's how you know that everything is in God's hands. When we got there, we had agreed that Eric would have a room in the hotel, but they didn't book that room in the hotel. So when he got there, he needed a green room. We
Now,
saw the
I want to,
place
I
at the
want to, I want to say, but make sure everybody's clear. We're talking about the Eric Roberson,
mm,
R&B singer Eric Roberson.
yes,
That
yes,
in itself was a blessing. We're talking
right,
about
right.
Eric Roberson. Okay, no, go ahead.
The Eric Roberson, the
The Eric
Eric
Roberson.
Roberson.
Okay.
And so we're there with him. He's like, well, where do I put my bags? And I was like, oh my God, that's right. He didn't get a room here. He was at another hotel. So make a long story short, God knew that that moment was going to happen. Okay. I ain't going to throw any names out there, but I will say this. The angel that God sent to help us through this process says, we have a green room, but you need to be out by midnight. Here you go. And I'm not going to say whose green room it was. I'm not going to give all of that. But if I said the name, you could Google it and you would know. Like, oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. Whole different level. Whole
Whole,
different
no-
level.
whole nother level. The reason I share that story is because in the world, in the natural, that whole thing looked crazy. Like, how you gonna do this? How last year you were just at the Courtyard by Marriott up the street from your house, okay? And now you in like you like in the you across the country, like you in Dallas at the Omni. That don't
The,
make sense. That don't make sense.
mm-hmm.
That don't make sense. But when heaven gets involved, honey, all of the details that you didn't even think about, all of the yeah, it was Tiffany's green room. Baby, when you are operating in God's economy, the whole trajectory of your life is going to change. You don't even understand. So you can't even explain it. I don't even try to explain stuff to people. I'm just like, try it for yourself. You have no words for it. No words.
You
No
don't,
words.
because you're in awe, being the one even experiencing it. You don't even have words for it. You just know God did it. I can't explain it. He
I'm
just
still
went.
unpacking it. I'm literally still unpacking everything. That's how you know it's God, because it's a time release formula.
Whoop.
When man does something, you can say, "Oh, this happened because of this happened because of this," and it's not layered. It's not multifaceted.
Mm-mm.
When God does something, it hits everyone differently.
Yeah.
Everybody I'm still hearing stories. Remember at the conference, this happened, this happened, this happened. I didn't even know what was happening in other people's lives because of the synergy of God's presence there. When God is in the mix, honey.
I
Mm,
will tell you this: getting prepared for the conference, I experienced so much favor
hmm.
up to the conference. It was ridiculous. That's how I know it was going to be life changing, because of all the stuff that I was experiencing prior to the conference.
Honey, honey.
It was blessings coming left and right. And I was like, oh my God, what in the world is about to happen?
My God.
And even when the trials or tests had come, I identified them so quickly that I leapfrogged over stuff that normally would have had me triggered.
That's the oh uh,
Normally would have had me triggered
mm,
and my spirit all messed up.
mm.
But I said, God, I know you up to something. And
Erica.
I gladly went through every test. When I say in my face, some tests like could have caught a charge test. Like, oh, we're going to do this today.
Our speaker for today, she's been arrested. We will
Okay.
you
And
would have
I
messed
was
up the
like,
whole program.
what? I was like, God, I think when I say God reveals so much, but in order to experience that first, it had to come with being self aware,
Hmm.
and then two, operating in a place of truth and not allowing these things to pull me out of my position
Mm.
to experience everything that had come with that conference, so that I could be open enough to receive everything at the conference.
Now,
And I'm still unpacking that stuff too. I'm
now
telling
look. Now that's power. Now think about what you just said. Like when you're in complete alignment, heaven, I always go back to Job. Like
you.
heaven, God introduces, allows triggers to cross your path so that
Yes.
you can pass that test immediately.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest triggers for me, and this is the thing that I was laughing at, because people were talking about all of the stuff they were going through. Like, I don't know, I'm right here with you. People acting like I'm floating right through. Honey, I got the challenges along with everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
When we got the final bill before the conference, because we've been paying in installments and all of that, and they send like this one bill, like an estimated final balance. Child, I opened up that email. I smooth passed out on my bed. I'm like, I'm gonna die today. I'm just gonna die. That bill triggered everything in me. When I tell you I was this close, because that's my trigger, it triggered me. I
Mm-hmm.
was this close to sending out the email. I said, hey, everybody getting a refund. I'm just sending everything back. I'm going to have to take a hit on this one because this is some fraggle naggle bull. And God reeled me in real quick and said, that's what you always do.
Come on.
That's what you always do. God said, I have placed this so far out of your reach of cancellation that you can't do nothing but pass.
Mm.
God said, you in too deep. How you gonna go back and see? This is how heaven does. Heaven will place you at a place of non-return. You can't return. You can't go back.
They
You
go
in
back.
too far. I'm in too far. I'm too close to the end not to see what the end is gonna be, and I'm too far from the beginning to go back.
Mm-hmm.
That is where heaven specializes in the miracle.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm constantly teaching, don't quit. Don't quit.
Quit. Don't quit.
Your triggers are there to trip you up and to keep you from seeing what's on the other side of that push through.
Hmm.
Like oh my gosh, I will never look at triggers the same again. Triggers are, and when heaven allows a trigger, that is your indication that you about to win. When heaven introduces the trigger,
Hmm.
anything that gets to you, heaven has approved it.
Okay, now put out the megaphone. Say it again, please.
Anything that gets to you, heaven has approved it. Heaven has approved it. Absolutely nothing can get to you without heaven's thumbs up.
Hmm.
I don't
So,
care, good, bad, or indifferent. Heaven had to approve it.
so if you have heaven's thumbs up, you also have the wisdom of heaven to overcome.
Hello.
But
There we
we
go.
get caught in the fact that I'm going through something. Am I equipped to do it? I don't know what to do. But instead of resolving in the fact that if God sent it to me, He is going to give me the wisdom and authenticate my faith in the process
Hello.
to make sure that He gets all the glory
All of it.
so that I can go through it and be better on the other side. See, we punk out too much.
All the time.
And we say, oh, I just can't go through. Mm-mm. Anytime a challenge is coming, I know I'm either getting promoted in the spirit, I'm getting some increase in some rank, I'm gaining some wisdom and some knowledge. I'm a firm believer there are no losses, only lessons. I'm walking away with some wisdom. And
Hello.
because I have the wisdom, I can apply it to any and everything in my life and always be an overcomer.
Always. Always. You do not lose in God's economy.
You don't.
You cannot lose. You cannot lose. That is not, heaven does not specialize in losing. It just does not happen. But see, the key is you got to go through it. And the beautiful part of it is that when you do quit, heaven don't hold it in front of your face and say, I told you so. If you had just see, if I had canceled that conference, I never would have known all of those miracles that were sitting there waiting for us. I never would have known. And so I would not have felt like I lost anything. But now that I know that I know that I know that with everything that I quit, I am missing out on a multitude of blessings. I cannot in good conscience quit anything.
Mm-mm.
I can't because I'm too nosy at this point. I gotta see what the end's gonna be. I am so, I mean, literally, I cannot rest if I start something. And see, this is the thing. Most people don't have the stamina to
Come on.
finish because they start too many things.
Mm-hmm.
Only pay attention to the things that cross your path
Mm-hmm.
because the things that cross your path have been earmarked for you.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are looking to your left, you looking to your right, you following trends, you doing this, you doing that, you trying to see what you're going to miss it every time.
Mm-hmm.
But when you pay attention, like everything that crosses my path, I pay attention to it. I do what needs to be done, and my life is better than reality TV. Better than reality TV. And I'm equipped to finish what heaven starts.
For you.
For me, for me, everyone is equipped to finish what heaven starts for you. And I was a complete failure before because I had too many. Well, I'm looking over, oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do that. I can do this. I can do, and I ain't paying attention to nothing that's directly crossing my path.
Mm-mm.
And then you get triggered because you start to feel like a failure because everybody else is doing what they need to do because they're in their lane. They're doing what they're supposed to do. You not.
We talked about it last week. There is no competition when you're in your own lane.
None. None. Zero. Zilch. Nada. You are not my competition. Nobody in this community. First of all, I can't do what you. I do not have the patience to do what you do. I am not emotionally intelligent enough to do what you do. I can't do it. And I don't even expect myself to do it. And this is why you need to be connected with people so that you can, hey, I'm like, look, that's not me, go see Erica. That's not me, go see Cynthia. That's not me, go see this person. Because I don't want to be bogged down with someone else's assignment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do it.
The other part of it is when you take on other people's assignment, and I know we up on our time, and this is going by fast
Girl,
tonight.
I can't wait till next week. We're talking about next week.
When you, I know, right? When you take on somebody else's assignment, you also take on somebody else's tests,
Woo!
trials,
Woo, girl, I'm about
tribulations,
to wait. Let
and
me spin. I
warfare.
got to spin in my chair. Hold on.
You take on their tests, trials, tribulations, and warfare.
Oh my God.
And if you big and bad enough to do that, go ahead.
I ain't
But
even
I
think
don't
about
want
it that
nobody.
way. I
I
don't
don't
want
want
all that.
nobody else. I want to own what I need to own, and I have been quick. And as I have operated in self awareness and truth and healing and staying in that place, I would tell somebody very quickly, "You own that. I don't own that."
My God. I ain't even think about that. That's
For the
good.
longest time, I used to take ownership of other people's stuff out of people pleasing. But when I let that thing go, I will quickly, in truth, tell someone, "No, you own that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me carry the baggage with this, and I'll deal with that because that's what belongs to me. Because God's gonna deal with me on what belongs to me. I don't want the Lord dealing with me on what belongs to you."
Girl, I have a hard enough time taking care of my own stuff. Oh my God.
Exactly. So I
Mm.
only want what's my assignment. And when you walk in the confidence and the assurity of what has been given to you,
Mm.
you don't care about competing with anybody else
Mm.
because you have to focus so much on what it is that you need to do.
Oh my God.
If you need to run 100 miles an hour to do your thing, go right ahead. That's not what I've been told to do.
Mm.
And you will quickly not take on extra tasks
My
and
God.
take on other invitations and other things if it doesn't line up with the assignment.
See, this is gonna free a whole lot. See, this is I've been told so many times I'm not coachable. Okay. I'm not coachable to foolishness. My
Correct.
assignment is not for me. I ain't sleeping in nobody's airport. I am not going to be away from my home for more than X amount of time without my spouse or my husband. I mean, we are a package. I'm not going to compromise my integrity. There's just certain things I'm not. You may be willing to do that because that's part of it may not even be part of your assignment. But for you to try to convince other people to do something that you don't even halfway want to do, I ain't buying it. I'm too old for that. I'm too old. The way my sciatica is set up and the way sleeping inside, I'm too. We're gonna have to come at this another way. I'm not the hustle and grind person. I'm like my assignment has been curated with my personality in mind. If
That
I
part.
if I am not having fun, I ain't doing it. Like this right here, Erica. If we were not having fun on this, I'd be like, what's that little mean? Get somebody else to do it. I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that. Everything for me has to reflect my degree of fun. It doesn't have to look fun to anybody else, but this is filling my soul.
Mm-hmm.
So if it matches you perfectly, then it's yours to do. If it does not fit you like hand in glove, then I suggest you pause and turn away. It's not yours. It's not yours.
Well, everybody tries to fit into other people's stuff, like trying to put on a Spanx.
I ain't doing this with you, Erica.
They do.
I ain't doing this. I ain't
They
doing
try to stuff themselves in somebody else's vision, and that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
I can't wait till next week. Girl, what we talking about next week? I can't wait. We need to do this like 2 times a week. What's next week's topic? Girl, I can't wait. This is fun. I was like,
We
whoo.
still gonna stay on self awareness.
Oh,
Next week
good.
we're gonna talk about our strengths and weaknesses next week.
Oh my God. Y'all come on back next week. That's gonna be fun. This week today was fun. I come off work, I logged off, I was chill. I said, okay, let me get honey. I just like caffeine. I done had a shot of espresso or something. This was fun. I enjoyed this.
Yes, ma'am. So we thank you all. Our time is spent. We have already hit our hour mark. And I tell you, I didn't realize it had gone by this
I
fast,
didn't
but
either. I
I
didn't
tell
either.
you what, we thank you all for being here. We hope that it was just as good to you as it was to us. Please like, share, tag, subscribe. When you come on next week, make sure you invite 3 people. Every person invite 3. Let them know about Evolve and Elevate with Erica. And I will be back with you next week with the wonderful Alicia Johnson. And we're going to be talking about strengths and weaknesses on next week. We love you
Mhm.
all so much. You all take care.